We're now looking at the teaching video on polynomials, and the subtopic is factor theorem. Part 1, we look at the equivalent term of factors of fx. So in other words, there are many ways that we can look at a question and have this idea that a certain expression is a factor of fx. So there are 4 here. Fx is divisible by x minus a. So the word divisible simply means that x minus a divides fx exactly, and there is no remainder. The next one, x minus a is a factor of fx. Next one, x minus a divides f of x exactly, meaning again there's no remainder. The last one, when f of x is divided by x minus a, the remainder is 0. So that tells us x minus a is a factor of f of x. Next, we look at factor theorem. If f of x is divisible by x minus a, then f bracket a is equal to 0. So what I've done is to substitute a into the x. How I get this is from here. I simply equated the divisor to a 0, and hence I get x equals to a. Next, if f bracket negative a is equal to 0, so here what I have is x equals to negative a. So if I work backwards, transposing the negative a to the left hand side, I have x plus a equals to 0. And that will be the factor of fx. So I put down here, bracket, x plus 2 is, I would say, a there. That will be x plus a, and the factor is x plus a. So there are different ways to say it. So if f of x is divisible by this x minus a, then f bracket a is equal to 0. Or if I have f bracket negative a equals to 0, this is how I work out the factor by taking x to be equal to this item in here, negative a. Working backwards, I get x plus a. That will be the factor of fx. For point 3, we are looking at the effective approach to finding a factor of fx. So we can use method 1, looking at the factors of the constant. If I'm presented with a cubic equation, this is the constant. So basically, I will look at the factors of this constant in the expression here, the cubic expression. So if I just look at 6, then I have to consider plus minus 1, then plus minus 2, plus minus 3, and plus minus 6. In the event that none of these 8 will work when I substitute back into f of x. By the way, the f of x is equal to the cubic expression. So if it doesn't work, then I will take another set, which is the reciprocal of the 2, the reciprocal of the 3. So that would actually help if none of the above help. Now, going back to here, 4x cubed minus 13x minus 6 equals to 0. And I have let fx be 4x to the power 3 minus 13x minus 6. And I can actually try any one of those. This is where I will do some of that. So if I try 1, I'm looking at 4 times 1 cubed minus 13 times 1 minus 6. So that won't work because it will give me a result of negative 15. So I can try negative 1, so that will give me negative 4 plus the negative 6 is negative 10. This is just plus 13. So I got a 3. That won't work as well. So I can then try 2. 4 times 2 cubed minus 13 times 2 minus 6. So 4 times 8 minus 26 minus 6, I'll get a 0. So once I get that, I'll stop the process because then I'll gather information that x minus 2 is a factor of fx. So what I need to do, if you look at all these steps here, is to substitute a possible value of x that is obtained from the constant here into fx to obtain a 0. So I have obtained a 0, and therefore the conclusion is that x minus 2 is a factor of fx. So I have here x minus 2 is a factor of fx. Now, next is to use long division to find the other two factors. So if I have 1 already, using x minus 2 as a divisor, for 4x cubed. And remember, there is a 0 term in between 4x cubed and negative 13x. That is the x squared terms. So I leave a gap there. Minus 13x minus 6. So to get rid of 4x cubed, I have to multiply to x 4x squared. So that will work out to be 4x cubed, then 4x squared times negative 2. I have negative 8x squared. These terms will cancel off. Negative, negative will give me a positive x, 8x squared minus 13x. To get rid of 8x squared, I multiply to the x, positive 8x. I'll get 8x squared. 8x times negative 2, I get negative 16x. The top expression minus the bottom expression, I get 3x. Transpose the negative 6 here. If I times 3 to x minus 2, I get 3x minus 6. Finally, I get a 0 remainder, which confirms that indeed x minus 2 is a factor of fx. And more than that, I've gotten the quotient and this quotient will give me 2 factors. There are 2 factors of fx in there. So after that, I refer to this particular step, solve for the x value when fx is equal to 0. So 4x cubed minus 13x minus 6 is equal to 0. And I have the divisor multiplied to the quotient. So x minus 2 times 4x squared plus 8x plus 3 equals to 0. So to factorize this quadratic, I will have 2x times 2x, 4x squared. I have a 3 here, I have a 1 here. 2x times 3 will give me a 6x. Then a 1 times the 2x, I'll get a 2x. So basically 6x plus 2x is 8x. So this factorization is correct. Then I can solve for the x value. So you can see when I equate this to a 0, I get a 2. Equate this to a 0, I get a negative half. Equate this to a 0, I get negative 1.5. So those are the 3 values. Now we look at method 2. Use calculator mode on solving cubic equation. So this is the approved model for a calculator. So what I attempt to do is to write down a typical step that I go through in order to get to this mode and then to actually work out the possible values of x for this cubic equation. First of all, the equation is not in the form that it should be because we have got a constant on the right hand side. So what I do is to rearrange this equation. So I have 2x cubed minus x squared minus 5x minus 2 equals to a 0. So first, I will have to get into the mode. So I will press modes. Then there is a selection, normal, and if you look carefully, there is an arrow down. So when I do that, it leads me to equation. So there is a 2 that I need to select. I'm going to select 2. To select 2, I just press equal. Then I'll come to where I have 2 value or 3 value. But there is an arrow down, which means there are more options. So I press down, then I have 2 options, quadratic or cubic. 2 for quadratic, 3 for cubic. So I'll press 3. So I am in the mode to calculate for the x values for a cubic equation. So I will look at the equation again. The coefficient of x cubed is 2, so that will be a equals 2. Then the coefficient of x squared is b, so b equals minus 1. The coefficient of x is c, so that is negative 5. And d will be just the constant term. So the calculator will prompt for the a value. I press 2, then equal. It leads me to the value of b. So negative 1, then c, negative 5, and d, negative 2. So it will give me the 3 values of x. The first one will be a negative 1. Next one is 2. And next one is negative 0.5. So these are the 3 x value. So for this equation, 2x cubed minus x squared minus 5x minus 2 is equals to 0. Now, the calculator has given 3 values. Minus 1, 2, negative 0.5. Really, when we solve for cubic equation, we have this equation and then these are the answers. But this is a written paper, so we still have to bring you through some of the steps. So we are at this step here. Choose a value of x to substitute into fx. So what I have done, this is found and we don't have to present it. So it should stay away from your paper. But we will certainly want to continue putting into f of x a certain value of x. So I'll put in 2. So 2 times 2 cubed minus 2 squared minus 5 times 2 minus 2. That is 16 minus 4 minus 10 minus 2, a 0. So once we get f of x equals to 0, we go to the next step. With the confirmed factor of f of x, find the other two factors of f of x using long division. So this is how we confirm it. Since f bracket 2 is equal to 0, therefore x minus 2 is a factor of f of x. Again, the way to work out this factor is to see that x is equals to 2, work backwards, taking the 2 to the left-hand side, I have minus 2. That will be my factor, x minus 2. So the use of long division after that to find the other factors. So one factor here. So using long division, x minus 2, I have 2x cubed minus x squared minus 5x minus 2. So x times the 2x squared will give me 2x cubed. 2x squared times 2, I get negative 4x squared. Negative x squared plus 4x squared, I get 3x squared. Next is to multiply to x minus 2, 3x. So I have 3x squared minus 6x. So I have just the x minus 2. Times 1 to this, I have a 0 remainder. So this portion will give me two factors. So when I try to solve 2x cubed minus x squared minus 5x minus 2 equals to 0, the first factor was x minus 2. Then when I factorize this, 2x plus 1 and x plus 1, I get the other two factors. So equating these three factors to a 0, I get 3x value. So these three values of x, if I put into the fx here, should give me a 0. So you can see we won't want to overuse the factor theorem to work out all the factors, but we choose this path. Once we found the first factor, we then use the long division. So there's not much of a trial and error there. It will lead us to two factors straight away. And for this part where we have to solve for the x value of when f of x is equal to 0, this is the step you can see. So you can see the whole process here in this video, how we actually use the factor theorem to work out, say, cubic equation. But the application is beyond just solving cubic equations. So we come to an end of this video.